If you have been following the news recently, you may have read that Delta is going to start giving free Wi-Fi to its passengers. And hearing things like this, hearing things like free Wi-Fi on Delta, I guess sometimes it just gets me to thinking, you know, I am getting older. There's no easy way to say it. And sometimes I look around and, well, I don't even recognize the world I'm living in. Things are changing every day. And not always for the better. And sometimes, well, I apologize, but sometimes I think it's time to take a moment to talk about how things were just a bit more simple back in my day. Back in my day, Delta wasn't giving people free Wi-Fi. Well, it used to be if you wanted Wi-Fi, you'd have to book a ticket on Southwest. And then you'd wait for the flight to get canceled, and you'd go home and have all the Wi-Fi you needed. And you could use it to Google stuff like, why does Southwest hate me? Back in my day, New Jersey wasn't increasing its minimum wage to $14.13 an hour. No, sir. Back in my day, if you wanted to make $14 in Jersey, you went down to Atlantic City and sold a bottle of water on the boardwalk. And someone would say, you know, Walgreens sells these for 99 cents. And you'd say, well, then go there, you 210 jacked up bastard. And then he'd throw you in the sea, Jersey style. And oh yeah, the seagulls would laugh at you. Back in my day, New York City didn't have a rat czar, Jiminy Whiskers. Back in my day, we had a rat mayor, and his name was Rudy Giuliani. You dirty rat. Back in my day, Bill Cosby wasn't planning a comeback comedy tour. Puddin' Pops. Why, back in my day, if Cosby was planning something, you'd best BYOB. Hopefully this time it'll only be his jokes putting people to sleep. A lot of Cosby fans here. Back in my day, there was no Avatar movie making gobs of money in theaters. There was? I saw it twice, and I loved it. So weird, I have no memory of any of that. Oh, you know what? I guess I do remember one thing. Hey, Rusty, where do avatars go shopping for affordable back-to-school clothing? Old Navy. You love it. Back in my day, a social media influencer named the Liver King wasn't publicly admitting that he used steroids. No, back then we all just kind of knew that guy was on steroids. I mean, take a look at him. He looks like if Bear Grylls ate Mark McGuire. Back in my day, Twitter wasn't adding number of views to tweets. No, sir, back in my day, if you wanted to know how many people saw your tweet, you had to call them up and ask. Hello, Shoemaker, just curious if you caught that banger I had about Old Navy. You did? Because I couldn't help notice you didn't click like or retweet. Well, all right. Once again, your approval is unobtainium. Back in my day, politicians like George Santos weren't lying about being Jewish. Back then, you would lie and claim you weren't Jewish, and that's how you got into show business. Rusty here is Jewish, aren't you, buddy? Oh, you did so have a bris. Did it myself. Rusty, tell him what your real name is.
David Russbaum.
Back in my day... Back in my day, Pope Benedict wasn't dead. No, he just looked like he was dead. But that's the Pope style. That's how you know you got a good one. They're so old, you think that's the new one? Back in my day, we didn't have artificially intelligent apps like ChatGPT. Back in my day, if you wanted nonsensical, incorrect answers, you had to ask the collective brain trust over on Yahoo Answers. You'd input a simple question like, how many calories in a glass of piss? And everyone in the replies would jump down your throat calling you a disgusting sicko. But you weren't asking because you were going to drink it. You were just asking to ask, you know, out of curiosity. And it wasn't even you asking, actually. It was your friend. The friend was on a diet. Back in my day, Prince Harry wasn't breaking his silence with a bombshell book about the royal family fiddlesticks. Back in my day, Prince Harry was breaking his silence with an Oprah interview, and then he broke his silence with a multi-part Netflix documentary, and the other day he broke his silence on 60 Minutes. In fact, as far back as anyone can remember, Prince Harry has been out there somewhere breaking his silence, and I personally wish him the best. I hope he continues to live a long, healthy life with his wife, Meghan, living in privacy, except to come out and break their silence 2 times a month until the end of time. Hey, it's their silence. What do I care if they break it? Back in my day, Jonathan, the world's oldest tortoise, wasn't turning 190 years old. He was turning 189, and his kids were waiting for him to die. We want that shell, old man! Back in my day, Deion Sanders wasn't taking the job as the head coach at the University of Colorado. His name was Deion Primetime Sanders, not Deion Mountain Standard Time Sanders. Little late with that howl, Rusty. Back in my day, there wasn't a movie coming out called Cocaine Bear. Sugar, booger, sugar. We all make mistakes, Rusty. There wasn't a movie coming out called Cocaine Bear, Booger Sugar. Back in my day, if you wanted to see a bear on cocaine, you went up to the Bronx Zoo and you gave it to him yourself. But sure enough, some elephant would enter the bear enclosure and try to get in on the party. And you'd be like, not with that nose, buddy. I'm trying to make this last. But then he'd just mope around in the corner making little quiet trumpet noises until you were like, fine, you can join in. And then at the end of the night, after he'd hoovered basically the whole bag, you'd be like, hey, man, you mind chipping in for this? And he'd be like, oh, yeah, totally. Can I Venmo you later? I left my wallet back at the Pachyderm house. And you'd say, sure, that's fine. But he doesn't Venmo you. Even though you have an easy-to-remember Venmo name, Seth likes cocaine. They say an elephant never forgets, but I guess that does not extend to who paid for the party favors. Well, I'm sorry, everybody, but sometimes this grumpy old grumps has got to get to griping. That's good piss. This has been Back in My Day. We'll be right back with Tom Hanks.